Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise in Parliament today to address and respond to the end-of-week statement delivered by Honorable Alvik Maharaj on the impact of cyclones on the education sector. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm in agreement with the statement made by Honorable Maharaj in Parliament this afternoon. I'd like to share the work undertaken by the Ministry and the Government in ensuring our children and delivery of education remains paramount during and after natural disasters. Mr. Speaker, I also acknowledge the statements made by Honorable Yasa Ratu and Honorable Dr. Wanga on the work that was carried out by their ministries in assisting not only the people who are affected by the cyclones, but also our work within the education sector. Mr. Speaker, the devastating power of cyclones, storms, hurricane, drought, and any other form of natural disasters that have hit our country are alarming and examples of harsh realities of climate change. In the last few years, we have experienced cyclones such as Winston, Gita, Kenny, Harold, Yasa, and the latest one being Tiziana, which brought about a lot of flooding. And of course, these had impacts on our infrastructure. Infrastructure was damaged, schools and other public buildings, teachers' quarters. There was widespread destruction of homes, farms, livelihood, and even caused serious injuries and death. These cyclones and natural calamities have reminded us that our fight against climate change is essential for our survival. COVID-19, on the other hand, has also impacted thousands of lives, and we continue our fight against these as well. Mr. Speaker, while we continue to be at the receiving end of the impacts of climate change and COVID-19, we are certainly not responsible for that. The rest of the world often fails to see the impact it has on our people and our nation, of course, our children. Mr. Speaker, let me begin with TC Winston. TC Winston caused damage to 206 schools and impacted thousands of families and tens of thousands of children in 2016. It destroyed homes, destroyed schools, livelihood, caused emotional trauma, and left behind deep traumatic scars of loss and sufferings on our people. Majority of the schools, Mr. Speaker, have been rehabilitated and rebuilt. As many as 395 new classrooms and buildings have been constructed since TC Winston. Work is still ongoing. Mr. Speaker, according to the Construction Implementation Unit, we have utilized $230 million in rebuilding and rehabilitating schools that were damaged by TC Winston. And the amount of contractual agreement stands at 259.6. As I mentioned, that some school buildings are yet to complete. Mr. Speaker, schools are now built under rehabilitation programs, are built to withstand Category 5 cyclone, and are all Cat 5 certified. Schools that have been built under the CIU rehabilitation programs have not sustained any damage from the cyclones that have entered the Fiji group after TC Winston. After TC Winston, Mr. Speaker, Fiji was affected by Gita, Kenny, Harold, Yasa, and Tiziana. The damages caused by these cyclones are still continuing to be rehabilitated under our rehabilitation program. And I'd like to thank the Minister responsible for NDMO for providing us full support in ensuring that our rehab programs are successfully ongoing. Mr. Speaker, our swift response and facilitation from the Ministry, we were able to welcome students to school for the 2021 academic year as planned on the 19th January 2021. I do agree that some students are still in learning spaces while the rehab works are continuing through the assistance of our RFMF engineers. Like mentioned by Minister Serratu yesterday, we have received a $12 million commitment from the Australian government to build new classrooms for about 12 damaged schools in the north affected by TC Yasa. Of course, Mr. Speaker, these new rebuilds will take into consideration the structural damages that have been made to these buildings. We will definitely work, as mentioned by Honorable Maharaj, work with the managements to ensure that the government comes into some sort of an agreement with the school managements about the rebuild and, of course, the continuous maintenance of this school. But I'd also like to say thank you to all the managements who have very proactively worked with us to ensuring that they, with us, got the schools ready for this academic year. Mr. Speaker, we also have 3 new school buildings coming up in Kandavu through the assistance of our Japanese government, Kandavu Provincial, I think I mentioned, Vunisea Secondary and Richmond High. We hope that these schools are completed by the end of December. And of course, these schools were badly hit by not only Winston, but previous cyclones that impacted Fiji over the many years. Mr. Speaker, a point to be noted here is when we do our damage assessment, sometimes we fail to see the structural damage left to buildings that don't get blown away. We might have a lot of buildings where damage is not done during one cyclone, but these buildings have been continuously hit by previous cyclones. So a thorough infrastructure audit is the next phase of work for our ministry, so that even though some of the buildings don't get blown away or damaged by cyclones, we need to understand and plan the rebuild of this. Of course, we cannot build all the 975 schools in Fiji. They require a lot of planning. They require a lot of government investment. So the infrastructure audit will allow us to see the standards of the buildings that are currently there. Mr. Speaker said, life goes on for people. Flood waters recede, the power is restored, water and buildings are repaired. Our normal daily lives begin. But the impact this has on our school children, I recall a week after TC Yasa, when I went to visit Jeketi Primary School, there was a group of students, about 6 p.m., there was a group of little children sitting outside on the veranda of the buildings. I don't know whether they knew me or not, but they saw a new face. And they quickly, held my hand and took me to the building where the damaged desks were. They showed me the walls where the paintings were held. Now, that is the impact these natural disasters have on our children. Some of them explained to me, they didn't know what a cyclone was. Some of the children did not even know what a cyclone was. It was first time for them to see their buildings gone, their homes gone. But the happiness that I saw on their faces actually triggered us to make sure that we got the classrooms ready for these schools. Children are always excited to be in school. And I must thank the parents and the community once again for helping us clear the buildings. Widespread, massive damage done. Lekutu Secondary, for one example, the community got together, our engineers got together, and we managed to clear the buildings, clear the debris, and of course get, whether it was a learning shelters or whether it was quick fixes done, so all these children could go back to the schools. Mr. Speaker said this was no easy task, and this would not have been possible without the generosity of all our donor partners. And I'd also like to use this platform to say thank you for the support and the love that the Ministry of Education received from a lot of people across the country, our NGOs, our corporate bodies, our private sector organizations, the donor partners, individuals who actually helped rebuild homes, who provided food and ration and clothes, who came on board and said, we'll give the students school books, stationery, uniform, shoes, everybody. And I think that is the unity that we show, that we saw during natural disasters, that actually unites us as one. So nothing is impossible if we all work together. And the passion that we have seen for parents in sending their children back to school. I do understand times are hard, and I once again urge parents, please talk to us. Yesterday I was asked a question. Some parents have said children will not go to school because there's no food. I've made arrangements. The heads of schools have been advised to ensure that no child remains hungry in school. A lot of avenues and answers are there. Mr. Speaker, so there is a way forward for us to ensure that we strengthen our e-learning modes of teaching when such things happen. And I'd like to thank Walesi for coming on board with us. They have taken the responsibility of connecting 51 schools that are still without internet access, and work is progressing well there. Mr. Speaker, a special thank you to DFAT for the Australian government, who has come on board now to assist 55 schools in the Western Division for a 6-week school feeding program, and 23 boarding schools in the Northern Division, as well as 35 other schools. So DFAT has been a good partner to us, and let me correct myself, the feeding program is for 12 weeks, while we allow communities to normalize their farming resources. This is because a lot of things go behind the scenes, and I have a very good team in the Northern Division, actually all the divisions, and they have been instructed to work with parents and communities and managements and ensure that students do report to school. Mr. Speaker, so finally, like I said, I need to thank everybody, and I can assure the House, a lot of work is going on, and we as a government are making children our priority. Mr. Speaker, so before I take my seat, I'd just like to say a big thank you once again for the Prime Minister for his leadership, and all the other ministers for the continuous support they provide us. As Honorable Elvik Maharaj mentioned, yes, we have holy celebrations going on around the school. And on Monday, all the faith-based schools run by the Hindu faith-based organization will remain closed, as has been our usual practice. To the teachers, I know if you are not teaching in these schools, you would also wish to celebrate. So I suggest you make arrangements with the head of school, and I'm sure good sense. And I'm sure the head of school will allow you to attend these celebrations. So I take my seat by wishing you all, may the colors of this festival fulfill our lives and bring us much happiness and joy. Happy Holi, and thank you.